was probably the youngest touring team ever. It wasn't Frank's intention to do that. Frank MAHDLO was obviously the coach, but we lost David Watkinson, who broke his ankle in a game in France in January. Skerrett got injured, Trevor Skerrett, and my mate Len Casey, Castine Casey, got a 6-month ban for getting sent off, and then he pushed the touch judge over when he when he walked off. So we sort of lost our old heads there with M3, which would have made a big difference. Because like I say, I was like 22. I think the average age was probably about 23. Terry wouldn't have gone, it would have brought it down a bit more. But yeah, like you said, Schofield was like 19, just turned 19. Crooksy was like 20. So yeah, it was like an apprentice scheme, taking on these invincible Australians.
Who were you up against, Mick? You know.
Well, first one comes to mind is Wally Lewis, G. Miles, Ray Price, Mal Meningo, Eric Grove, Gary Jack, Greg Dowling. A team that I'll never get. There won't be a better team. I can't see a better team coming on, because you know, the likes of Wally Lewis, to play against him at 22 years of age, and he was probably in his late 20s. You're like in awe of it. You know what I mean? You just don't take it in.
And in the forwards, you've got to get stuck in, haven't you? There's nowhere to hide.
No, there's nowhere to hide at all. It's you know, it's a test match. You've seen it on there. It kicks off. It's not like today's game where there's 120 cameras watching, so they're just grabbing each other's shirt and saying, "Oh, I like your tattoo on your neck there, and have your ears pierced lately?" Yeah, we'll talk about that later. The only cameras there were the TV cameras. So once they'd followed the ball, as you saw there, the scrum, it just kicks off, and everyone's just knocking 7 bells out of each other. And I was in the second row in that first test, and Frank MAHDLO, great ball. You know, he was the captain last time we won the Ashes, 1970. And he had some weird tactics. He had some good tactics. But one of his worst ones was, let's kick it off in the scrum. You know, first scrum, let's give it him. But he smoked like a trooper. So we're in the dressing room at Sydney Cricket Ground. Lovely place, really great experience. And he's there with his fag in his hand, going, "Right, lads, there's one thing we've got to do, we've got to get under the nose. We've got to give it him. First scrum, kick it off, give it him. Aussie bastard, give it him." We're all looking around, looking at each other. Okay, yeah, good that, yeah. Looking around with Lee Crooks and Andy Goodway, me, we're all like 22, and against all these. Ray Price, he retired at the end of that test series. He was rock solid, he was. When he hit you, you knew he hit you. You'd been hit properly. So anyway, he was into first scrum. I'm in second row. Not a good place to be when it kicks off, because your arms are around there, your head's poking out. Greg Dowling's looking at me going, "All right." Swinging his arm, he never bound. But great, this, isn't it? Might as well just put a big bullseye on my head. So bang, first scrum, kicks off, Goodway's in there, Crooks in there, we're all scrapping away. And, you know, that set the tone for the game. It was tough.
So you played,
I was happy to play loose forward second game.
Mick, I need to come in there. It was fine where I was in that nice long bar underneath Sydney Cricket Ground. I don't know what you're moaning about. It was fine.
Yeah, I was fine second test at loose forward. I was out that way.
You played the first 2 tests, didn't you? Then you picked up an injury.
Yeah, I had a bad injury on my knee, yeah.
But in terms of that team, but you played a lot of tour matches as well, didn't you? Like these days, you go over and they play 3 matches, but you guys, and we'll find out from Mike in a moment, but you guys, it was relentless. It was almost the opposite of what you later in '86 gave to the Aussies. Everywhere you turn up, they're ready for you, aren't they?
Well, yeah, it's probably the last big tour where we had 2 months in Australia, a month in New Zealand, and then a couple of weeks in Papua New Guinea. So yeah, it was a long tour, and we were, you know, we'd landed in Darwin, so we played the Northern Territory, then we went to Seagulls, then to Wide Bay, and I seemed to be playing a lot of rugby. You know, I played 9 games before second test. So yeah, it was tough.
And Flan, you played some tour matches, but injury disrupted in Australia, but but back in against New Zealand, as we saw that sneaky little chip through, didn't we?
Yeah, luckily I managed to just stare at the firing line, joke, by the way. But yeah, plagued with injuries, hard grounds and stuff, but got myself back in shape for New Zealand and had a good little run on the soft grounds, having done 2 months in Aussie and then 3 weeks in New Zealand. So yeah, it was tough but great.
It's too modest to tell you, but he won man at match against Papua New Guinea in the third test. So a round of applause for Flan. But Flan, how would you sum up the intensity over there? Like, you know, you're playing at the top level in England, but the Aussies, they were playing a different game as they probably are today, weren't they, over there?
They were, yeah. Mick did fantastically well, and Andy Goodway getting in the pack. There are 2 Oldham players. It was fantastic, and you know, our very own Des Foy. You know, again, Frank was great, but he had, you know, Frank put him in against Wally Lewis. He hadn't played stand-up half since he played at Southwest Rangers with me when he was 15. So it was like a bit baffling, to say the least. But he got stuck into him, and Des, to his credit, gave him a good show. But it was, yeah, they were there. Just before we went in 84, 82, the Aussies had been over here and they'd give us a good tasting. Every game was 44-2, 46-4. You know, the modern era kicked in, and we as a game were behind it. The youthfulness of the tour and the lads in the test closed the gap. Didn't get on top of it, but closed the gap massively. And that was a big step forward, I felt, for our game.
It was a good step forward for, you know, the legends, the likes of Andy Gregory, Joe Lydon, Ellery Hanley, Goodway, Gary Schofield, Lee Crooks. You know, they'd been on that tour, and then they became legends in our game. And, you know, it was a good grounding for all of us, really. But then midweek games were fun, weren't they? Oh, we went to a place called Wagga
Double.
And you just played a team of pig farmers. And all they wanted to do... Oh, yeah,
Angry pig farmers, yeah.
Yeah, so not the first scrum, but every scrum kicked off. I remember the referee had gone down at a tackle, and this pig farmer kneed me straight in the head. I looked at the ref and he just said, "Get up your sock, Bonnie."
Sock, Bonnie.
Yeah, so, you know, they were fun games, weren't they?
They were, but we paved the way for Mike's era coming after us there, didn't we?
And Mike, yeah, so you're at Leigh, you come to Oldham, you get in that touring squad in '88, and they end up making you captain of the midweek team. So how does that feel?
Yeah, you look, Andy Gregory was probably one of the best in the world at that time, so, you know, to play understudy to him wasn't a bad thing, I thought. And, you know, they thought a lot of me to give me the captaincy. I think at 5 times I captained the midweek team, and I don't think we lost. So, I mean, it's different. Test football's miles different level than what you played midweek. But yeah, it was good. Some good memories. You know, even I got into a fight yesterday. You won't believe that, and I won. Yeah.
No, I don't believe it.
I'm spinning it now for you.
But it was a pretty decimated tour in terms of going into the last test. We had a lot of injuries, and we had no hooker. And I remember Phil Larder. Everyone remember Phil Larder. He was assistant coach at the time. Came up to me and said, "How do you fancy playing hooker?" Right, because yeah. So you put your hand up, don't you? But it was between me and Paul Hume. Remember Paul from Widnes? David played standoff because I think we had a few injuries at standoff. So they went for Paul, a bit tougher than me. In fact, a lot tougher than me. It was the right decision, and that was the first time we beat the Aussies for 10 years. Fantastic. I think you put it on there.
That's right, yeah, with Mike Gregory.
Mike Gregory, God bless his soul. Went 60 yard, didn't he? So Ensign Gill and the boogie in the corner.
Yeah, and Martin Affia's been interviewed, and obviously Wally Lewis was trying to pull him back, but he said he was clear, even if he caught up with him, Mike Gregory was not passing that ball, he was having it, wasn't he? And you were on tour with Hugh Waddell, weren't you? A big favourite with the Oldham fans and a proper character. What was it like? I mean, he got in for the last test, didn't he, Hugh? And
yeah, look, he was a fantastic player. That probably the biggest thighs I've ever seen on a rugby player. He was very, very hard to tackle. Complete workhorse. He got in. I don't know what the drinking was like on your tour, lads, but we had some big drinkers, Andy Gregory, Mike Gregory, Alan Platt. They're just 6 Guinnesses every night, and then you go out and train, and you know they'll be at the front in training as well, you know. And Hugh Waddell was a teetotaler, weren't the fittest in terms of distance, and so he couldn't get his head around it why these players could drink 6 Guinness and go out and play like they did. But
only 6.
Eh?
Only 6.
Only 6. Yeah.
Or practice.
But yeah, he was fantastic in that test, and a great player for Oldham as well.
Yeah, I remember Hughie. I'm sure there's some people in the room who remember this. We played Blackpool Borough. He's a lad from Staffordshire, Midlands. He had quite a strong Midlandsy accent, which he stood out like a proverbial sore thumb with up north, as they say. But he was having trials at Blackpool Borough, and he came to Oldham when they played us in Lancashire Cup. And he scored 3. And we were all like, what's all this about? Who is this guy? And he just had a shape about him and an engine on him. And he was a lovely, lovely guy. He didn't have anyone wanted to crack him, he just, yeah, whatever, you know, and he had a really unique approach to it, really, compared to the norms, let's say.
And while you've got the mic, Flan, we'll move on to the day when the Aussies came the other way. So we're going back 2 years to 1986. I'm sure many of you were in the room. Incredible memories. And the hair stands up on the back of your neck, doesn't it, just to watch it now. But again, Frank Myler, tactic, fag at the side of his mouth. Let's kick it off over the first scrum. And rumour has it you made the call, Flan.
Well, I was always an obedient type of player, to be honest, Kev. So, and I think Mick touched on it. You know, playing up country with the Aussies, and we've got Tom Burgess here who's played 11 years in Oz, and they love giving it to the Poms, and so we play Wednesdays in all these places, and they're in their backyard, and to that context, we said, well, Sheddings in November '86 is our backyard, and it's our turn, and we had ourselves. But Dave Hobbs from Featherstone, who played Test stuff. You had Dave Topless, God rest his soul. Mick Burke. We had lots of lads who'd had a taste of the Aussie welcoming. So we just thought we'd show them what Shedding's like, and we did. But then we played some great rugby, as you saw, and the break that Mick made was awesome. And it was much of that during the course of the night, to be honest.
And Mick, you were one of the ones who got sin bin, but that was the idea. You got under the skin, and then you started playing a bit of rugby, did you? Yeah,
that was the idea. Give it them back, upset them, take them off their game. Their very organised game that they have, the Australians, and let's see what happens. Sometimes you're going to win, you're going to cop a few, off the ball, and then. Like I say, I got sin-binned, and people can remember Watersheddings, where you walk down the tunnel and there was changing rooms either side where you used to go at half-time. I think it was Davidson who went off before me, and then I went off, and just as he gets in, he's in the tunnel, and he turns around, he calls me a pommy bastard, and wanted another goal, so kicked off again a little bit there, and then a couple of local coppers were there to sort it out. Back in the day.
Sounds like a different game, this. Yeah. And then the Aussie commentary is brilliant, isn't it? Because it's coming across with you the ball, nothing's on, and next thing you know, you break through some frantic rugby to get over the line there.
Yeah, it was a great try. It was good old-fashioned rugby league. We could do see it more today, where you make a break and plenty of support play, good ball handling, and produces a good try. And
then Flan, obviously you score again, like Des Foy over in the corner there off the Stuart Raper kick, and are you feeling at that point you have a chance of winning, or are you running out of time by then?
Well, it was the sort of 79th minute, that try, so we knew it was all over, but we just, and as the commentator said, we just give them a really good shake up that night, and years later, one of the Aussie players who didn't play that night, Roy Simmons, I got to know him through the West Tigers, and my lad playing down there, and he didn't play, but he just knew full well the camp, they said, you know, they dodged an embarrassing that, because we lost 22-16, which was, you know, quite a tight margin in any, you know, one score, but they had Terry Lamb and Benny Elias was electric, and so they had some great players. Meninga played, so they were great and fantastic, but we got stuck in.